Anyway, so these are some of the key themes from the Openscapes training that we found beneficial to our project and team philosophy. They are open, positive, efficient, so that better science can be accomplished in less time. They include building communication and team skills, foster inclusive, open science mindset that is kind. And this word kind is really important. You're going to be working with many people with different skill sets and experiences, personalities, and comfort levels for communication. So it's important to incorporate psychological safety, respect, and space for people to share their ideas and their thoughts freely and provide ideas that may help the team. We also think it's important to create a cross-program and divisional collaboration and build on shared knowledge. So many of us are from different programs within our division, and it's been great to work not in silos, but actually sharing a common goal and working towards that goal, achieving that goal. And lastly is to learn new software tools for more open, reproducible, and efficient science. And something that's really important to remember is that you're not working alone. There are lots of people out there that are working on similar things and willing to share their knowledge and experiences. Next slide. 13. So with the Openscapes themes in mind, our goal was to streamline our process using tools and adapting a different culture to efficiently communicate and improve workflows while meeting staff where they are. Input comes from many people with varying technical communication skills. So if you present things that may be too complex or overwhelming, then you won't get the buy-in that is necessary for progress. So it's really important to meet staff where they're at. Another goal was to incorporate tools to maintain the National SAR flavor or look. So we weren't necessarily trying to change the SAR, it's just the processes to produce it. The next slide. So there's lots of tools available, and these are just some that our group chose to use, and it worked really, really well for us. These collaborative tools include Google Spaces, Meet, Live Notes. We continued our Seaside chats, as well as our co-working sessions, and GitHub. So we experienced several changes during our Openscapes training and our co-working sessions. I won't get into those now. We'll talk about that in a bit. But we were willing to adapt and to learn. One thing that was is important for you, I guess, to understand is that none of the platforms or tools that we used before were dead ends, i.e. it was not a time misspent. But anyway, as you adapt and learn more, it's like we did, you're able to change it. And if there's better solutions, then employ them for sure. Next, we have Brian.
Can you hear me? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Tony, and thank you, everybody. It's just really fun to share our journey from Openscapes to kind of post-Openscape world. As Tony pointed out, we were able to use GitHub for project management, documentation, and tracking. And it turns out that GitHub is not just a tool for programmers, which was news to me. Other people can use it as well. So we created repositories within GitHub, and we're doing the substantive development of the stock assessment report documents within Markdown, either in R Markdown or Quarto, also using Google Docs and other collaborative tools like Zotero to meet people where they are. We're also working on developing a cookbook or a how-to SAR webpage through Quarto to facilitate the onboarding process and describe what someone new to the process would need to know. The next few slides just give a few snapshots to illustrate what these look like once we've incorporated them into our new process. So now I'm slide, there we go, slide 16, it looks like. So a key benefit of using GitHub for us is the ability to track issues and discussions. On the top left is an example of how issues work in GitHub, which we use to identify, assign, and track the resolution of our tasks. The graphic on the bottom left is an example of discussions topics view, which can be associated with an issue, don't have to be, but where we document conversations about the project development and capture substantive issues and decisions related to the stock assessment reports and the process to develop them that might otherwise have been, as Nancy pointed out, in emails, notebooks, post-it notes on a piece of scratch paper, which is my old way of doing things. And if you want to see how a thread looks, just follow the arrow from the bottom left under the file naming conventions, and the discussion thread is on the right, and it gives an example of what that looks like. Now, this is a static slide, but these examples show an avenue for everyone in the repository to be aware of the issues and discussions, contribute to their resolution, and track the progress of each one. Issues and discussions are searchable. We apply labels to them to help keep them sorted. And when issues are closed, they're still available to view and reopen, so anyone new to the process can see them. Now, slide 17. This is another powerful tool we found in GitHub that we embraced, and it's the project management tools. And I think I heard there was a bit of a discussion about these earlier, but we created and used this as a group so everyone has equal access and opportunity to track, contribute, and benefit. This allows us to build a project plan within the repository to track the workflow, progress on issues and discussions, and these are, in fact, the building blocks of our project. In this case, the columns are from left to right: planning, building, review, and done. And these allow us to track the progress of each of these issues through to completion. But there's multiple views available, lots of ways to do this, and you can tailor it to how best suits your project and team. This next slide, 18, is just a real world example of a time-saving strategy that we came up with. All the stock assessment reports have a map included. Various programs at the Marine Mammal Lab go about creating that map in various ways, whether it's ArcGIS or through R programming. A while back, Josh spent an afternoon building a script to convert spatial data into a format used in R, and now that script is accessible to all the SAW authors. So it's, again, this, they pointed out, we're not working alone, and you can take advantage of other people's work. And I learned just before this meeting that our studio starting tomorrow is going to be called Posit, so hence the new graphic there, and we'll have to get used to that. Next slide is 19. And again, this is an example of us using a Quarto Markdown document. We're going to be mostly working in Markdown, and we recently shifted from our Markdown to Quarto. I think Quarto was just a gleam in the Openscape organizers' eyes when we took our session, but it seems to be strikingly powerful. So we've kind of retooled our process to incorporate that. And this approach allows us to easily render the stock assessment reports into whatever output style is appropriate for the task, whether it's Microsoft Word, a PDF, or Google Docs. Eventually, we are interested in developing different formatting for a web-based version of the final stock assessment reports instead of just PDFs. On the slide 20 is a diagram of our overall workflow process. I'm not going to go into detail over this, but it just kind of shows that after a lot of thought and trial and error, we've refined our GitHub workflow process to a structure that allows version control, allows modification, review, and adoption of edits without changing the original versions, and better manages overlapping annual report projects, which, and as Nancy pointed out, like the 2023 versions won't be final before we have to start working on the 2024s. There's some powerful features using GitHub in this. First, by using the forks and branches that show us on the bottom off the development branch, the authors can work on different stock assessment reports at the same time, or even on different sections of the same report, and merge those changes back into the branches. We can track changes that are made to the documents, like track changes in MS Word, but in GitHub, this lets us see what's new and focus on reviews of new text and new code. We've brought in code that allows us to pull in data, text, and tables and figures from Google Sheets or from Google Docs directly into the SAR, R Markdown, or Quarto documents. So stock assessment report authors can still contribute even if they don't feel comfortable using RStudio. And I'll try and call it Posit now. And lastly, we're able to create releases for our significant drafts so we can easily come back to particular versions. With these changes, we've really transformed our workflow, so no more screaming face in the middle of it, and the steps are now structured, inclusive, repeatable, and trackable, which are all the Openscapey things, as far as I can tell. And I think Tony's got the last slide.
Thanks, Brian. So I'm going to give you some parting thoughts. This is just kind of like based on our experiences. One, we were motivated, and I guess I can use the sort of the past tense, the present, and the future tenses as well on this. Team, the committed, we exhibited and continue to exhibit endurance, good communication, and collaboration. These are words, but actions that I think are useful for any team. This whole process is fluid and dynamic and adaptive as well. So the skill and problem-solving processes that we learned in Openscapes really beneficial because the status quo, as was pointed out earlier in the presentation, was not acceptable. There needed to be a change, and I'm sure some of the projects you're working on are probably fit in that category as well. And it's important to remember that change is incremental. You're not going to have your project completed, after the end of this training or overnight. And it's not necessary for it to all happen at once. At least for us, many of us are field biologists, and so we actually go out in the field for several weeks or months at a time. And you're not going to be we didn't work on the SARS then, but when we came back, we were able to come back and join the team and participate to either catch up and or continue where we left off. That change is incremental as well in the sense that you don't have to always make big giant steps, little small steps, whether it be having an issue or having a discussion about something. That's just as important than the huge discoveries as well. So this investment in time, energy, and commitment will hopefully pay dividends. And I'll leave you with some thoughts here. This is a quote that Rod shared, but I think it simplifies many of our thoughts as well. And that the journey in Openscapes was learning with each other, from each other, and for each other. So again, learning with, from, and for each other. Those are powerful words. He also mentioned, I think, again, we share these values that doing more with less seems to be a consistent theme. People are overwhelmed, they're taxed, and taking on more with no real tools for time and to investigate new ways of doing things. So this path that we learned and are implementing in our daily lives allowed us to be more efficient and to do more with less. The process also allowed the opportunity to be efficient and more collaborative, and even an opportunity to make more friends. Again, we all know each other, but working together as a team was just absolutely rewarding, and getting to know each other better will hopefully, again, tear down those barriers between different programs and hopefully divisions within our center. And with that, I think I'll speak for the team here that we wish you the best as you continue your journey using Openscapes.